that I feel like we were inseparable. Like the reason why I think I was so like into Scotty was that he was so obsessed with me, but like not in a, it wasn't in an unhealthy way. It was just in a way of intention.
Yeah.
Where he was, going out of his way to see me. We lived in 2 different cities at the time. I was still going into like I was still in nursing school. So it's like there was a lot of things that he had to wait for me. And so I felt like I wanted to show my commitment to him as well. But I think also he has, baggage with relationships, like women, cheating on him. And so it's just like a lot of things that I had to deal with and show him that like I am not that. I am not your past. I am here. I want to love you, but I just don't think that that was enough because there's internal battles that he's dealing with.
It was interesting.
I don't know about you. Welcome to Little Black Book 91, by the way. Little Black Book, you know what time it is. I don't know about you, but for me personally, whenever I heard the word obsessed, why are you so obsessed with me? Boy, I need to know now. It's not a good thing. All right. Whenever you hear the word obsessed, it's close to possessed, it's close to jealous, envy, those kind of emotions that are attached to that as well. And they usually aren't in a positive way. Right. And so it's interesting to see the origin of Scotty and Aria. She wanted somebody that was obsessed with her, hence why this relationship actually took place. Now, if you see my first video, I've done one about Zaina. I'm now doing one about Aria. I'll do one about Scotty as well, about the accountability piece. Now, Aria is going to call out obviously Caleb and call out Scotty. And she's going to talk about obviously Scotty's behavior, which I think correctly so. Scotty's behaviors have been detrimental towards the relationship and quite frankly destructive to the nurturing of that relationship. But she actually says some very interesting things in this video. She talks about how she was actually curated in the show. She actually did not show all the sides of her in the show. She intentionally held back some parts of her, i.e. when she would actually while out and say things back. She didn't want to do that because she was on the show, but then called out Caleb for being calculated about the way he portrayed himself on the show. Quite interesting. But my part where I believe that she needs to be accountable is that this relationship, again, once more, began because she wanted someone to be obsessed, and in the sense of not the person desiring her or wanting her, she wanted that person to show an undying, unfathomable, high-reaching love that just went beyond the natural norms. Right? When we talk about obsession, that person creates their world to be you. And the problem with that is whenever we have obsession, we normally have the word worship. And when we have worship, we normally have the word sacrifice. And then when you start to see it play out, now we see why Scotty is the way he is. Not because of her, but because if you want an obsessed love, Scotty's going to give you that obsessed love. Lacking self-awareness, but thinking that he's the good guy in a relationship when he's doing bad things. Right? And so he's obsessed with you, and that's what keeps you tethered to the relationship. But we're going to break it all the way down because I think there's lots more to discuss with this particular interview. So if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor. You're going to like it, share, subscribe, click on that fabulous bell button for notifications of the uploads. We're going to get into this video and hope you're going to love what we're going to do. So make sure you leave a comment as well on your thoughts. Does Aria need to be accountable? Let me know.
Little Black Book, you know what time it is. Time it is. Time it is. Time it is. Time it is.
All right, let's play a bit more of this particular clip and discuss a little bit more about what she was discussing. Okay.
Howdy.
That prefrontal lobe is definitely developed.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like
he's 30.
Yeah. I think there's still hope for him. Unfortunately, listen, we are.
I honestly think that this was a wake up call. If I'm being honest, like I think that. I mean, who gets to really see themselves in a third person? I think even for me, like honestly, like watching some of this back, like honestly, I just remember feeling like defeated or feeling like unhappy, but I didn't know like what it was because I was like, I'm doing as much as I possibly can do. Like, why is this not working?
Yeah.
And I honestly think I went onto the show to really show how committed I am to it because I didn't want to be there. And it's not that he forced me to be there, but like I didn't like it was definitely something that I was like, okay, well, is he showing me that he wants to commit? And I feel like something we lacked in our, relationship was reassurance because I feel like our relationship wasn't really the healthiest. So yes, it would be like threatening of the relationship. I don't want to be with you because you're not giving me this. And like, I mean, you guys saw it on the show.
Yeah.
So it was like him expressing that he wants to marry me and do this process. I was like, oh, of course I will do that. You're showing me reassurance that you even see a future with me.
Yeah.
And then I feel like in the experience.
And before she goes any further, I think it's really important that she saw the experience and the show as a way of him proving himself to her. It's quite interesting because Zaina said the exact same thing, that JR going on this show was proving to her that he actually wanted the relationship. I think there's a common denominator here. People don't know what reassurance really looks like. And the reason why is because they've not had reassurance oftentimes in their childhood. And I can understand she's given us her background of her upbringing in her childhood, so it makes sense. But the problem is here is that going on a show like Ultimatum, as Scotty said on his interview, which we'll break down another time, is that this promotes toxic love. Of course it does. It's an ultimatum. It's an ultimatum show, right? The moment you get to an ultimatum, it is usually it should be the be all and end all. Once I give you an ultimatum, I should really walk away. There shouldn't be anything after that. But because it's a show, people want to be on TV, people want the opportunity to, get some clout. And I don't mean that in the most baddest way, but again, it could help your business in future. It can help you create a TV persona for the future, whatever you want to call it, right? Can open up new doors of opportunities. But within that space, right, how does this show prove somebody is willing to work with you? Because it's an ultimatum, which they could have had without the show. They could have had an ultimatum outside of the actual show and discussing it, right?
I wanted to show him that I'm a loyal girlfriend. I am someone who I was committed to the experience in the way of I'm wanting to learn how to be a better partner. And I feel like that was what I wanted to highlight. But I think that what he was really hung up on, even past like watching the show, was he was just like very hurt by seeing a connection develop. But
yeah.
Now it's interesting again, because just like Zaina did with JR, she also said the words, I was trying to prove to him that I am that person. And again, once more, we're witnessing people who don't believe they're of value, so they're having to prove to their partner that they're worthy of that time. Now, I don't want to prove anything anymore, right? I'm in that space where for the last few years, so I don't want to have to prove to you that I'm the one. I don't have to prove to you that I'm worthy of this. I don't have to prove to you this, because in reality, if I was worthy, you'd have seen it already, right? It doesn't take much for you to see the value in someone and see the value that they're worth marrying or wanting to be with. The reality situation is you just don't see it. And that's okay. Now, of course, there are different stories and different narratives that get to that particular perspective. But if we're getting to the ultimatum and we're going on the ultimatum, at that point, it's because we don't actually have we don't actually believe. We're actually trying to prove something in that relationship. Both Zaina and Aria are proving to their partners that they're good enough. And yet both partners were not chosen. You know why? Because you can never prove you're good enough. You're never going to be able to prove that you're good enough for that person, because in reality, if you were good enough, you don't have to prove it. You just are. Let's play a bit more. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that. I think I said it in our last episode. It seemed like it was hard to watch you struggle in the relationship, because it seemed like both you and Scotty wanted to be good partners. It was fascinating watching you. It was hard to watch, but fascinating, because just like you described, it was like you were almost confused as to why you were unhappy, because here you are and you had referenced past relationships and bad boyfriends. So like compared to maybe your past and don't know the details of it, Scotty and
so confused all the time, because I'd be like, okay, you want to be with me. You say you're committed. You want a future with me, but then it seems like I make you so unhappy. And I honestly just got to a point, like, I just got tired of fighting. Like, I was exhausted. Like, it just reminded me too much of my dynamic with like my parents, watching that, like growing up and watching them fight. And I just was like, yeah, this is just like not for me.
And this is where Scotty has to take accountability. He can't sit there and honestly tell himself, "Oh, I'm so good. I'm such a great guy," and I've been mistreated. And we actually found out that Scotty had been cheated on several times by ex-partners. Now, Scotty can't sit there and be like, "Oh, I don't know what happened. This I've been good, and if I've been good, and I deserve to have a good woman or whatever." But in reality, your behavior has not been good. It's been nice. It's been manipulative. It's been rude. It's been disrespectful. It has been uncouth, and it has not been safe emotionally. And interestingly enough, as Aria will talk on, she'll talk about the reason why they broke up in the therapy aspect. But in this space, what she's actually breaking down, I just want to look at my notes. What she was actually breaking down was, again, talking about her parents' dynamic. Now, this is very important. This is where she has to be accountable, because the patterns that you keep following are due to the fact that you chose somebody who aligned with the patterns that you had existed with as a young child. Now, it's not your fault that you were in that childhood, in that household, experiencing those things, but it is your responsibility that when you make choices of partners, that you have to choose the right kind of partner. And you have to do the work to undo the trauma and the hurt that you have faced in your childhood. And many of us actually don't actually get past that stage. That's why we choose people that are very similar to our parents in terms of the way that they move and the way that they operate. And so people can revert back to type, and they choose someone who's familiar with the song that they're used to singing. And I think that's why she just highlighted that it's very similar and reminiscent of a parent's dynamic, which means she has to be accountable, and she has to be accountable for her own life and make sure that she chooses new information in order to do it differently. I think she is, because she's in therapy and stuff like that. And it sounds like she's realizing some of the mistakes she's made. So we'll see.
And it wasn't even that I realized that I was like being like gaslit in situations. Like, honestly, I feel like now in a person like perspective, I could see like, okay, like this is literally something I think I saw and I was like, oh wait, that's kind of funny. It was like he just throws word salad out. And so I feel like that was I truly just respect him, and I was trying to understand this man so hard, but it just was like there was just such a disconnect that I was just like, I give up. And I think the last straw for me was just the fact that I had to beg him to go to couples therapy. Like, I was like, you know that there's an issue. Why am I begging you to do anything? And so I just was like, I was so over it. Like, I just was like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Like, I truly need to choose myself. And like, even though you love me, like, you're not showing me the ways that I want to be loved. So
Yeah.
And I think that's a beautiful point, right? That if you really wanted to make this work, right, you'd have gone to therapy. She said that, and I've said this in my other video, which is that she gave you the keys as to what she wanted to see in the relationship, okay? And the fact of the matter is, right, the keys were given to you, and because you're the keys, you should have used them, but he doesn't. He wants to come through the back door because he believes that he isn't a problem. That's where Scotty needs to be accountable. His lack of self-awareness. And her pointing out some of those issues and him not willing to change, or at least him not seemingly changing, problematic. He needs to be able to change, but he doesn't see that.
My hardest to like stay there, but like it was just like there was just a disconnect.
Did you have any inkling that he was planning on proposing to you?
I feel like I wasn't really sure, to be honest, because of our last conversation before it, but I know he loves me, and I honestly don't. It's like I know he wouldn't want to see me with anyone else. So for him to not propose in that moment, I think he would have been like more scared of like, okay, what does this really mean? Because yes, the show is like you get engaged and you move on, but like this is real life. Like, okay, like maybe it doesn't end out like that. You don't get engaged, but are we still going to work on the relationship? And I think that I tried so hard in this experience to be so like, like take this experience, still respect him. And then I think to like get to that point where potentially he's going to publicly embarrass me. Like, I think we had a lot of thoughts. And then I think for me, I was like, I don't want to reject him, but there's still things I want to work on. And so that's why, I called the engagement off after a day, because I was like, this is too fast. Like, we need to like move in together. And I can say that that's something I did respect, is he was really fast about doing that, but it just didn't work out.
I definitely felt for both of you in that moment.
So again, obviously, she mentioned about the proposal and that she didn't want to reject him and didn't want to be rude, which is understandable. Again, and also, but it's funny because she explains, I guess, his perspective on how maybe what it would have meant for him to not propose and etc. My thing was, what was her thought process, right? Why was she thinking about him? And that's what I realized. A lot of times when people ask you to explain how you feel and what you think, we tend to go into how others think, right? And I was looking at my notes again for the situation, because she was explaining how it was that her partner had wanted to propose, and he was thinking about what the relationship might mean if he doesn't propose. And I was like, but what does it mean for you though? Like, what are maybe you're so used to obviously having to explain his position that you forgot that you have a position. And a lot of times when people are insecure or have insecure attachments, they tend to over focus on the other party and not on their own self, which again, a lot of us are trying to grow and become better at. But it takes some time to be able to stop focusing and personalizing things and making and projecting, and rather just saying, actually, this is how I feel, this is how I saw it, this is what I'm thinking. But a lot of times we try to think for the other person, but not say that she was even wrong. Just a case of just something I noticed about always thinking for the other person. I want to get to another stage of the thing as well, because I think she speaks about Caleb as well, which is quite interesting. And I think I might have missed that actually, because she spoke about Caleb's experience. Let's go here.
Like a genuine effort into like doing what Scotty wanted, and then all of a sudden you get feedback, like you like he sees someone sit on someone's lap and you're like, you never do this. Like, what a defeating feeling to work on something and then have your partner tell you never fucking do something. I don't know, it feels like emotional torture in a way.
It's interesting too, like I feel like, yeah, I mean, we did end up going to like, I think it was like the intro to couples therapy, but I think I was so done that like I ended up making the couples therapist my own therapist. Because I was like, yeah, I told her, I was like, hey, we're not gonna do this anymore. Do you want to work with me by yourself, or we'll just have to let this go? And she was like, oh yeah, sure. But something that was like that we learned is like there's like 7 like deadly habits to do in a relationship, and one of them is like saying never, always, those kind of things, because it makes the person feel like they're it's never enough and they're not enough. And if they're actually, being receptive to what you want to say or what you're saying to them, then you should be like, hey, I'm still hurting, but like, I see you. I see that you're trying. And in that actual fight, when I said it, this isn't the first time that we're talking about this on camera, which it wasn't featured, but we talked about that again. And I asked him, is that a non-negotiable for you? Because that is not my love language. And I am working on it. But if you're saying like, you need me to be like all on you all the time, like, if that is a non-negotiable for you, like, let me know, because in my head, I'll know like this maybe isn't like, maybe we're just not a good match. But I think I go in my head and I'm like, was I really affectionate in the beginning? But maybe it was just like I was starting to fall out of love and I was trying my hardest to like stay there. But like, it was just like, there was just a disconnect.
Did you have any inkling that he was planning on proposing to you?
I feel like I wasn't really sure, to be honest, because of our last conversation before.
It can come across as very aggressive and mean almost, and belittling and condescending and minimizing. And it's like, it's hard to watch because I don't think Scotty would ever think of himself in that way. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he would.
No, yeah, no, I agree. I do want to say something though, because obviously with all like, people's opinions, and he's never been physical with me like at all. And so, and honestly, like watching the show, like they definitely dramatize like his stare, and like, I mean, he's still staring all crazy, but like it's very dramatized. And I feel like I've never been scared of Scotty, like ever.
Okay.
But I think the things that I've been annoyed with him, like I'll be like, okay, like this is very childish. Like let's talk like adults. But I've never been like, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid. Like, and I think that's why you can see like once the changeover happened, like I was excited to be with him. I actually I wasn't paying any attention to him staring at me. Like I feel like people were making TikToks and being like, we're gonna definitely do some intervention. Like that was kind of like where it was coming from. And I think how he treated me. So it's like, and so I think now seeing everything, they've all like reached out to me. They're like, Aria, you carried yourself so well. And I am so sorry for like the pain that you've had to endure like in that process. But I want you to know, like, we're gonna definitely do some intervention. Like that was kind of like where it was coming from. And I think that honestly, I don't think his mom has seen it. I don't think he wants her to see it, because I know she'd be like very disappointed. And I mean, I had to let her know that we did break up because he didn't tell her. And then I know she's really sad, and she was like trying to call me about it. So I just feel like.
So it's interesting that Scotty obviously didn't tell her. Again, like I keep saying, that Scotty isn't this person who said he had such a great relationship with his parents. His parents were amazing. Their marriage was just perfect, and he was just a perfect little kid. He was always validated. And yet now he doesn't want to tell his mother that, he broke up with his girlfriend. I said, look, bro, there's something much more deeper with Scotty that he's not really revealing and as truthful. But and she said obviously that the mom has obviously called her. Now, what's really intriguing about this, again, she again defends Scotty and says that he's never put hands on her. He does have a stare, but he has never put hands on her, which I appreciate as well, because some people were making it that particular aspect, like he's abusive, he's going to do something crazy, but not everybody's like that. But it's interesting that he didn't tell his mom. I think that almost like shame and embarrassment and guilt that he might have felt. And also I wonder, didn't tell her about obviously the show in terms of watching it. Maybe he felt like the mom would then, would watch it and then maybe judge him. He's afraid of being judged and being critiqued. As we know, he's afraid of being rejected. So we can see how that could have easily played a part in him not wanting to share that with his mom, right? His mom might have felt disappointed or hurt that, that he's no longer with her. And then maybe he could not be able to handle those negative emotions that he may have felt due to the mum also feeling those thoughts. I think that's really important. Now, I want to go a bit further because she actually says something which is really interesting as well about her connection with Caleb, but also she talks about her behavior here as well.
Yeah, this is a wake-up call for him. I think he didn't realize what he had when he had it, and now that it's not there, now he's, feeling it. But I hope it is something that he grows from.
You said at reunion that he doesn't love you the way that you wanted to be loved, and your time with Caleb was so wholesome. What did you learn about the way that you wanted to be loved?
I just need somebody to be like calm with me, because I think that like I'm an anxious individual. Like honestly, like I am very anxious. And so I feel like when Scotty has his little moments, like I used to be like overly trying to explain myself, and I did nothing wrong. But I think I got to a point where in my self-development, I mean, I go to therapy. I started to go to therapy because I realized that I was emotionally reactive. And so it's maybe something he would hurt my feelings, and I would maybe like lash out and like not like be kind with my words. And I feel like that was like, okay, I'm going to work on this. But I started to realize like, okay, why am I working so hard on myself and trying for this relationship when I don't feel like the person I'm in the relationship with sees that there's any issues? And so it was really the calmness of Caleb. I'm also very aware 3 weeks is not enough to see somebody's ugly. Like it's not.
Now, this is really important because I mentioned this about Scotty as well, that he played a role in this, that he wasn't as calm in the relationship as he may think he is, right? He's very emotionally volatile. And because of that emotional volatility, he's actually causing her to also be triggered. Now, that doesn't mean that he takes the whole weight of things. She has to take accountability for the fact that she shows up that way, because also someone's uncalmness shouldn't make you just now be suddenly uncalm. You have to also be aware that you need to be calm as well, right? But she needed that from Scotty, and it made her be able to relax and be able to exist in that world in a completely different way. And with that also, you know, she's going to explain a little bit as well about her own behavior that we didn't get to necessarily see. But before we get there, you know, I think she's made a great point. As a man, especially, you want to create an emotionally safe space for your woman to be able to be her full feminine emotional self and be present with you. And that can only be done when the person doesn't feel any fear from your side, which can emanate from fears of abandonment, rejection, even betrayal.
And so I really want to clear the air. I had never in my life thought I was going to leave with Caleb. Like my edit looks like, yes, I think I was definitely having a little baby crush, but like it was never anything deeper than that. Like I never was like, oh, I'm going to run off with Mariah's man. Fuck my man. Like I was like, that's not what I came on. I was really trying to show how committed I was to the person I came with.
Thank you for clarifying that. Can you speak to one thing I guess I really didn't understand your POV from watching it back was what came across is your insistence on trying to get Caleb to like acknowledge a connection between the two of you. And while I don't doubt there was a connection,
Yeah.
I'm watching it and thinking it seemed like he thought acknowledging that would be disrespecting his girlfriend. And to me, it came across as like, I don't know, maybe there's a connection. I don't know, but like he just wants to call it a friendship. And I was comfortable as a viewer with him trying to protect that. But like, how did you see it in real time? And what are your thoughts on that?
So you guys don't see how often, like often he said it. Like it was to like an overboard amount of times. Like anytime I feel like he got a chance to talk about our connection, it was like friendship, friendship, friendship. But off camera, he's so calculated. Caleb is a good guy. I respect him, but he is very calculated. So I feel like he would put on this like, I don't want to call it a front because I think he truly is a good guy, but he was very in his head when cameras were there. But then once cameras weren't there, we had 2 days off. He was so different, so chill, so laid back. And we actually like we were hanging out outside of just like the producer, like dates ideas. Like we would actually like hang out with each other, talk about things. And so there was like, and his vibe, I know what a friend vibe is. That was not it. Like there'd be little side comments. And so it wasn't disrespectful. Like every time he was trying to respect his girlfriend, but like I think that for me, I was just like, bro, like it's not that deep. Like just say it. Like I don't get it. Like I didn't understand it. And then I think watching it back, it really bothered me that he was gaslighting his girlfriend. Like I was like, she obviously wants to talk about something because you spent 3 weeks with someone, and something that isn't featured because he wouldn't say it on camera, which I thought was interesting. But the two top choices that he wanted to be with, and he told Mariah, which caused her to have insecurity, he was like Chanel and Aria. And so then us matching with each other, she's like,
okay, so you know what? We're going to do a part 2 because I don't want the video to go on too long. I think, you know, when she talks about the Caleb part, it's interesting, right? Because she'll go back onto Scotty in a second or two. But, you know, I think the Caleb part is really intriguing for me because he's gaslighting his Mariah, you know, that Caleb was calculated in the way that he approached things because he didn't want to do certain things on camera, but had other conversations off it. I totally understand it. He was looking at the optics, and it's funny because again, she does the exact same thing, right? She says about how she also was calculated and she would lash out. In fact, I can play a little clip so you can actually see it. She says she was lashing out, but she didn't want to show that part of her.
Call for him. I think he didn't realize what he had when he had it, and now that it's not there, now he's, you know, feeling it. But I hope it is something that he grows from.
You said at reunion that he doesn't love you the way that you wanted to be loved, and your time with Caleb was so wholesome. What did you learn about the way that you wanted to be loved?
I just need somebody to be like calm with me, because I think that like I'm an anxious individual. Like honestly, like I am very anxious. And so I feel like when Scotty has his little moments, like I used to be like overly trying to explain myself, and I did nothing wrong. But I think I got to a point where in my self-development, I mean, I go to therapy. I started to go to therapy because I realized that I was emotionally reactive. And so it's maybe something he would hurt my feelings, and I would maybe like lash out and like not like be kind with my words. And I feel like that was like, okay, I'm going to work on this. But I started to realize like, okay, why am I working so hard on myself and trying for this relationship when I don't feel like the person I'm in the relationship with sees that there's any issues? And so it was really the calmness of Caleb. I'm also very aware 3 weeks is not enough to see somebody's ugly. Like it's not. And so I
even willing to consider that he is capable of
not.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I think we all have those
of course,
tendencies,
we
right?
all do. Yeah.
I like when he said something at guys' night, which it wasn't a lie. Like he was like, "Oh, our fights can be visceral." I was aware that I'm on TV. Okay, like I know I have my like breaking points where sometimes I will. It's either I shut down, which what you guys saw is I shut down. The other part of me is I will snap back and I'll be like, "Don't talk to me like that," and I'll and but I was like, "Do I want to be that person on camera? Like, do I?"
Oh. So we all got a little bit of calculatedness. Now, of course, the difference here is that obviously, old boy is not showing a negative trait, but maybe he feels like he's got a negative light to have certain conversations on camera because it won't be able to be explained. Fair enough. He was calculated, but so were you. Now, that's very interesting. So you want to nail him to the cross about being calculated, but sis, you just as calculated. And the reason why you're being calculated is actually a good reason because you feel like this will now show up badly on the screen. And I get it because you're looking out for yourself. And just like that, maybe Caleb was also looking for himself. Now, my final sentiments, I'll say this. I think Aria knew what kind of man Scotty was before she came on the ultimatum, but she was so bothered. She was so focused trying to prove herself that she's worthy because there were actually some work that she actually needs to do internally, that she found herself in a relationship with somebody who was obsessed with her, which she actually wanted because it made her feel wanted, desired, and it made her overlook some of the wounds that she was actually carrying that she hasn't dealt with. And we're going to do part 2. We'll talk more about the Scotty situation because I believe that the Scotty situation actually exposes what she really needed from a partner and what she really wanted, but did not know how to go about it and get it. And I think that's why she really appreciated Caleb. But then she also explains her Mariah situation as well, situation. And I think that's quite intriguing the way she describes the Mariah situation as well, because she explains it as if like she was trying to, I guess, help Mariah, but not realizing that she actually contributed towards creating more tension between Mariah and Caleb because she was so wanting to prove that there was a relationship further than friendship, but wasn't necessarily a romantic relationship, but was something else. And because of that, it sent some shockwaves to their relationship. But hey, look, we're going to leave it here. I think part 1. We'll do part 2 and break it down. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Listen, let me know your thoughts down below. What are you saying? Little Black Book, you already know what it is, baby. You already know what time it is. Comment down below. Appreciate you guys a lot. So we'll see you again soon.
Little Black Book.